I've been waiting way too long. Yeah, I've been down here trying to get it. Yeah, I've been waiting way too long.
All right, this video is a video that is going to talk about using the intercepts of a linear function. So the x-intercept is the x value when y equals 0, and the y-intercept is the y value when x equals 0. So the x-intercept will be written as the x value comma 0 every time, and the y-intercept will be written as 0 comma y. We use the letter b to represent the y-intercept, so you might also see that as 0 comma b. So in this first example, it says graph the function using the x and y intercepts. So we're going to use our definitions that we just learned. If the x-intercept is when y equals 0, then I'm going to plug in a 0 for y, and now I'm going to solve for x. Negative 2 times 0 is 0, so that is 3x equals 12. Divide by 3 on both sides, x equals 4. So my x-intercept is 4, and remember my y value was 0. So that is the point 4 comma 0. So I'm going to plot that right here. Now I'm going to do the same thing for my y-intercept. Remember the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So I'm going to plug in a 0 for x, and then I'm going to solve for y. 3 times 0 is 0, so I just have negative 2y equals 12. Divide by negative 2, y equals negative 6. Again, my x value was 0, so that is the point 0, negative 6, which is down here. So there is my x-intercept and my y-intercept. I only need 2 points to make a line. So now I can connect those intercepts to draw my linear function. So that is one way to graph a function. I know we already learned how to graph a function when we have a domain and range. Well, now you know how to do it using the x and y intercepts. So what do we notice here on the graph? The x-intercept is this guy right here. So the x-intercept is when the function crosses the x-axis. And the y-intercept is here, and so the y-intercept is when the function crosses the y-axis. Now what we're going to do is we're going to interpret the meaning of the x and y intercept in a problem situation. So the problem is Miss Ray got a candle from a student that was 14 inches tall. The candle is in Miss Ray's living room and drops ½ an inch for every hour that it burns. Write an equation to model the height of the candle as a function of the time it burns. So it says write an equation to model the height of the candle as a function of. So the height of the candle is my f of x, or my y, and the time is my independent, my x. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my graph here. So now let's think about what the equation is going to be. If it starts at 14 inches tall and it drops means subtract ½ an inch for every hour. So I start with 14 and I subtract ½ an inch per hour. That is going to give me my output, which is going to be how tall the candle is. So x is the time in hours, and y, or f of x, is the height of the candle. So I've labeled my x and y axis. So now we need to think about what are the x and y intercepts, and we're going to use those to graph this. So remember, I'm going to plug in a 0. So if I want to find the y-intercept, I plug in a 0 for x. So 14 minus 0.5 times 0 equals y. Well, 0.5 times 0 is 0. So that means my y-intercept is 14. So there's 14 on my y-axis. Remember, that is the point 0, 14. Now I'm going to find my x-intercept by plugging in a 0 for y. 14 minus 0.5x equals 0. So I need to solve for x, so I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides. So negative 0.5x equals 0 minus 14 is negative 14. Divide by negative 0.5. X equals positive 28. So there is 28. And when you're graphing these, it is okay to show that your lines go by more than ones, but just make sure that that stays consistent. So here's the point 28 comma 0. So we have our y-intercept, we have our x-intercept, which means we have our line. So we can draw our line. You should use a straight edge of some sort to draw that line. So now what do these intercepts represent? Remember, the height is on the y-axis. So 0, 14, this represents height, and my x represents time. So what does this mean? This means that the candle is 14 inches at time 0. What is time 0? Well, time 0 is before I started burning the candle. It's when the candle was new. And then the point 28, 0, again, 28 represents hours and 0 represents height. So what does this mean? This means the candle is gone at 28 hours. So when the candle has been burning for 28 hours, it will no longer have anything to burn. So it's really helpful to make sure you know what your x and y represent in the problem situation. And then also to then make sure you write your intercepts as ordered pairs like we did here in order to determine what that represents.
I've been waiting way too long.